I've run across a couple cases. The biggest cases that I get that are like always come out real personal to me at the end is like the cancer claim ones, because the ones who like served in Vietnam and stuff, they went through that cancer and they changed the regulations for it. So now that they can actually claim it and get it service connected, those are always like so rewarding, because a lot of them have been fighting for 15-20 years. And then they get it service connected, and I'm just like, yes. And they're like, how did you do it? I've been fighting it for years. They come in with stacks and piles of decision letters, and I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry, but at the end, it's rewarding. Hey everybody, welcome back to Sun City SITREP podcast. My name's Amanda, and today we're talking about intake counselors and their critical role, sharing tips for a smooth intake process, and highlighting why follow-ups are essential to achieving claim success. Let's dive in.
So as an intake counselor, we basically help veterans navigate throughout the entire process. Intake counselors can be considered navigators as well, where we help them, whether it's with their VA claims or just leading them to the right direction of what exactly they're needing. And yeah, we're usually basically the first point of contact when talking to these veterans. So it's really important to be able to have that first impression with them and be able to build rapport whenever you are speaking to these veterans, because you do talk to them about certain conditions that can be hard for them to deal with. So it is important to have that empathy and being able to really understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, being an intake counselor, it's like a very passionate thing. You go into like a lot with these veterans. You get on a very personal level with them, I feel. So it's a lot to do, but it's fun because you're helping them at the end of the day, and it's helping them deep dive into situations or even things that they never wanted to talk about, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And it like helps them come out of their shell, because they're always in the shell and they don't want to tell anybody their feelings. So when they come out and they start talking and they realize like, wow, I do have that, or wow, I didn't know that, or stuff like that, it always helps, and it's always fun to go and navigate through that with them.
Exactly.
I love talking to them on the phones. It's always the best. And it's rewarding at the end when they're like, that was super easy. I thought it was going to be harder. And it wasn't even that hard.
Yeah.
It's always super fun. I think for them, it's just because they don't know us. So, like, we're over the phone, right? So when we're talking to them and they can't see us, it's really important how we talk to them, that our voices, how we start the conversation, how we flow with the conversation. It helps them feel comfortable because they're not in person with us. So that helps a lot too, especially knowing that they don't know who's on the other side of the line.
Yeah, exactly.
It always helps.
Yeah, I think some of the challenges that veterans definitely face is exactly what you mentioned right now, like not knowing exactly the verbiage or exactly the conditions that they are struggling with, having to explain like different symptoms, different things, maybe due to their MOS or just things that they haven't acknowledged themselves. Sometimes it does feel like pulling teeth a little bit, just because some veterans can be very prideful when it comes to certain, just the whole process of this. They can be very prideful until just us as intake counselors, we do have to reassure them that this is the compensation that they deserve. So just by reassuring them that, I think it gives them some like cushion or some like, what's the word? It gives them some just, I guess, confidence in us that we're able to lead them into the right direction, rather than they're just blindsided and having to do it themselves. Just because it is a long process with documentation, doctor's appointments, all of those things are super essential when it comes to the VA process. And a lot of our veterans are just simply like, they don't have the knowledge for it, which is completely fine. That's what we're here for. We're here to help them and like navigate them to the right direction. And also things, as I mentioned, not just with the VA claims, but having things like upgrading your discharge, just pointing them into the right direction of where they can begin with our process as well.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, even if the veteran doesn't stay with the company, like you said, because they need something else, upgrading their discharge, just knowing that we can provide them with those resources, I feel like they feel confidence with that, and then eventually they come back.
Right.
So it really helps with the retention as well. For them, honestly, I think the biggest struggle that they go through is, like you said, not understanding the process. And they're always in the unknown because the VA has so much going on with it. And we're the professionals, right? So when we're telling them, they're like, I didn't know that. Or like
Exactly.
finding the documentation, they're like, they're always updating the VA website. I don't know how to find that. And the fact that we don't even have it in front of us, but we can walk them step by step how to find it, it gives them that reassurance like, okay, you know what? They are professionals. They know what they're talking about. They can navigate me through the entire system without even looking at my screen. So that helps a lot. But that is like a big struggle for the veterans. The documentation or finding the correct documentation
Yeah.
at that, because the VA website can be very hard to navigate at the end of the day. So that it always helps them. Veterans in general, like I've run a couple, like across a couple cases. The biggest cases that I get that are like always come out real personal to me at the end is like the cancer claim ones, because the ones who like served in Vietnam and stuff, they went through that cancer and they changed the regulations for it. So now that they can actually claim it and get it service connected, those are always like so rewarding, because a lot of them have been fighting for 15, 20 years. And then they get it service connected, and I'm just like, yes. And they're like, how did you do it? I've been fighting it for years. They come in with stacks and piles of decision letters, and I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry. But at the end, it's rewarding, because like, hey, we figured it out, we got it, we followed the regulations, and now you got what you deserve at the end of the day.
And I think that's the one of the biggest perks about here at Warrior Allegiance. We're able to help the veterans find like the necessary evidence to support their claims. We're able to help them create statements and have the CFR codes that will essentially all be beneficial for their claim, which just basically filing those fully developed claims for them. And I think that's one of the biggest perks that we have here, just because, as we mentioned before, they don't know. It's just the not knowing, and that's completely fine. But that's where we're able to step in and help them create those statements, help them get nexus letters, things of all that sort. We're able to provide those resources to them where they don't have to do it alone. And even just beyond the documentation, I think the biggest the most fulfilling part about being an intake counselor is that, like, basically knowing that they're not doing it alone. Just knowing that we're here to help them through every step of the way, even if it's just something that they want to talk about. They want to talk about something that happened in their day. We're here to do that too, because I mean, I get my veterans all the time too, just telling me about their day, and that's completely fine. I feel fulfilled knowing that I'm not only helping them get the compensation they deserve, but being an ear for them as well.
Yeah, that's always the best feeling when they call you and they're just like, oh, how's your day? And they're so excited to actually hear from you when you call them back. It's like so rewarding, because sometimes the first initial call, they're just like, I don't know. And then they get used to it. They get used to you calling them. So it's always fulfilling to have that feeling with them. And they are comfortable enough to, share that part of them. Because like we said, like they're totally not comfortable with it from the beginning most of the time.
Of course.
So it's always so nice to get them out of their shell and actually help them with the things that they need. I think another big thing, like you said, was the verbiage, and then like writing statements. So they usually can't find evidence. That's a real big one. Like, I don't have the evidence, I wasn't seen in service, or it was so long ago, or I didn't want to go to sick call. So finding that evidence, or even helping them find articles, because there's a lot of stuff online nowadays.
Yeah, of course.
Like doing the actual research is probably really fun. Like that is probably the most fulfilling part for me. I love doing research when they're like, yeah, this happened
on this boat.
and on this day on this boat, and I'm there. I'm searching up the boat, the people, and there's a lot of stuff out there that you would never expect to find on the internet. And we can use that for their claims. And that at the end of the day, they're like, I didn't know I could use that. Yeah, you can use an article. It shows a time and service, a place, a date, and it puts you there. Of course we can use that. And they don't know it. And it's like, wow, you went 15 years not knowing that you could do this. And we made it that easy for you to get it claimed. It's great.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things too is that veterans don't know how much their family members or their kids or anyone can really actually help their claim as well. Writing statements on their behalf, like explaining the conditions that they struggle with, help them so much for their case that they probably don't realize how essential it is to their case, actually. Because I know a lot of times veterans won't want to share the conditions they're struggling with their spouse, their partner, just because, that pride that they have. But they're not realizing that can actually help their family as a whole as well. Just having that compensation and getting that compensation that they deserve for their family also.
Yeah, because a lot of these veterans, when you talk to them, they say, "Oh, I'm doing this for my family
Mm-hmm.
because if something ever happens to me, I want them to be set." And I like that warms my heart. I'm like, "Oh, like like this is for you too. Like you need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is for you. It also is for your family because they do get benefits out of it as well." And they don't even realize that that statement from their spouse
Mm-hmm.
or that statement from their children of what they went through or how they felt can help them at the end of the day because they feel kind of embarrassed or maybe ashamed that they're going through this and that they're putting their family through it, but at the end of the day they're all going through it together, and that's good to have that support system,
Right.
especially that it's their close family and even friends, like they can help each other go through this because they're not alone at the end of the day.
Of course. And I think the stigma of being a veteran as well, and maybe not serving in a combat zone or not being in Iraq or just things like that, like they feel that they don't deserve that compensation because they weren't in that. But being in the military alone just allows you to get that compensation that you deserve
Mm-hmm.
because you did serve your full entire term. You experienced PT training, all of those things can still be affected while you were in service. And just because you weren't in a combat zone doesn't mean that you don't deserve that compensation as well.
Right. Yeah. That there's a lot of that goes around, that stigma of, well, I didn't serve in a combat zone, so like you said, I don't deserve the compensation.
Mm-hmm.
But did you get injured while you were in the motor pool? But did you jump out of planes and you were a paratrooper?
Exactly.
Your
Mm-hmm.
knees are hurting, right? Because you jumped out of that plane. Like you still
Mm-hmm.
deserve it. You still served at the end of the day. You raised your hand and you said, "I'm going to do this for my country," and you deserve it. And it makes me so sad that they feel that stigma and they feel that from everybody or even themselves around them, that they feel that they don't deserve it when they really do at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day. It's benefits for them.
Yeah, and I think one good thing is like having a mix here of both civilians and veterans here. Because whereas I was able to learn from you, where you were a veteran, and I was also able to learn from the civilian side as well, just being able to have that balance of both perspectives definitely, I think, gives them some peace of mind, knowing that we have both perspectives and we're able to help them in the way that they need the help. So I think it is cool that we do have that balance of both veterans and civilians in our business to be able to fully be able to help the veteran altogether.
Yeah, no, it definitely does help. And then, a lot of things that would help them even when they first come in is like having everything ready.
Mm-hmm.
I know sometimes it can be hard to even have like their DD-214 or they can't find it or even medical records, but having those things when they first come in and ask for our help, it's important. Having your decision letters, I mean, if even if they were 20 years old, you have a pile of papers, I promise you we look through everything. So,
Yeah.
like having all their decision letters, their rating breakdown letters, or even their DD-214 or any medical evidence that they have, old or new, that helps them at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Even if say we weren't going to claim something, it can still help them for a potential claim we can do next time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can always do things, or looking at their service treatment records helps a lot as well, because then we could understand what they were actually seen for in the military, or what they went to the doctors for, what they went to sick hall for. It helps us a lot because those are obviously going to be different from their civilian
Mm-hmm.
medical records. So I think
Right.
that's really important too.
Yeah, definitely coming prepared with the documentation. But again, it's completely fine if you don't have access or you're unknowing of where to get that documentation. We definitely help you through that entire process and that step of finding everything. But definitely having everything ready will speed up the process because we only work as fast as our veterans. So the faster our veterans complete the whole documentation process, we're able to get to the next step where we start strategizing, seeing which conditions would be best to send for, and then just making sure the veteran knows to advocate for themselves as well. So amongst all of these things, it is super important when it comes to just beginning with that paperwork. And again, just because they're unknowing of where to get it, we're able to help them and guide them and navigate them to whatever they're needing as well.
Yeah, that paperwork can be important, and it helps us when creating the entire packet for them, because there's certain things that they do need, like that DD-214. We need a service member 2 or 4 so we can see their discharge on it. It helps to create the packet and to make it sure that it's accurate. Another thing that makes sure that it's accurate is like those dates, like if they have dates of time and service of what they did, or if they were at Fort Bliss or they were at Fort Bragg, that, oh, I was seen at this clinic at this place, that helps them too. So the accuracy in the details, even the small details, help them a lot at the end of
Go
the
a
day.
long
They
way.
go a long way, because what happens is the VA is like, oh, you're at Fort Bragg. Let me go ahead and see if I can find medical records from when you were there. But if you just say, oh, I was seen by the doctors, I mean, they're not going to really know, like, oh, where am I checking? Where am I going? Or what records am I looking at? Then they're going to want to have to sift through all your medical records, and that's a lot. That can be a lot at the end of the day.
Right, of course.
It's narrowing it down and making it more specific for them makes it a lot more accurate at the end of the day.
Yeah. And definitely following up with veterans, or them veterans following up with us as well. That's super essential to the process for this, because we need to be able to see if they've gotten any CMP appointments to prepare them for these appointments. We need to be able to see if they've gotten a response back from the VA. Just keeping up with the veterans and keeping the veterans keeping up with us is super essential to the whole process as well, just because we don't want anything to fall through the cracks. So just having that constant contact, that consistent contact with us, that's super important to the whole process. And I know sometimes you see a phone number that you don't recognize, you don't want to answer, but it is important to just go through those things, go through the contacts with us, just because we do need that follow-up to be able to help your case. Because again, we only work as fast as our veterans. So the faster that we get all the details that we're needing, the faster that we get all the documentation that we're needing, the faster we're able to get to the VA. And that's the whole process that we go through, as well as we don't charge anything until we're actually successful. So basically, if the veteran doesn't get paid, we don't get paid. So that's one big thing, one big, I guess, perk that we do have here, because we want you to win. And if you don't win, we don't win. And that's one of the biggest things that we have access to.
Yeah, and as a client care specialist, like, the follow-up is important. Like, not only do we call you, we send you a text message, we send you an email, you can call us back. Like, there's so many options for us to get in contact with them, to make it easier for them, because sometimes they're at work. So they're like, oh, I can't call right now. And then they'll text us and they'll let us know. Just keeping that communication open with them is real important at the end of the day, because we need that stuff from them. It's not stuff that we can obtain for them, unfortunately. If I could, I would, but I can't. So for us to have that follow-up and making sure that they do give us that documentation, that helps us a lot. And then they just keep in contact with us, because we can call them all day, but if they're not in communication with us, we're not sure where they're at in the process, or even if they need help with finding documentation. Exactly. So it is important for them to follow up with us as well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like, the follow-up just speeds up the process as well. If we have a veteran waiting about 6 months to upload the documents, that those 6 months could have been put to use to be able to get a decision back. And exactly what you mentioned, like, we need to be able to have that open communication so that we can help you in any way we can. Because again, that pride does come in sometimes, where I'll do it on my own. I'll find the documents on my own. And when you're kind of just like, sir, like, I'll be able to help you. Let me give you the resources to be able to help you. And a lot of times sorry, I got stuck. A lot of times the veterans, they don't realize that follow-up is super important, because I'm not trying to bug you. I just want you to get that compensation you deserve. And that's one thing with our veterans as well. We just want to be able to help them realize that every step that we're taking in this process is super important for them.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we go to the extreme of even sending them an envelope with a stamp on it so they can send us their documentation. Like, as quick as we can get it is as quick as we can move forward. If that's what's easier for you because you can't do technology, I mean, by all means. We've had veterans that are still in, the initial phase, and we get in contact with them, and then they just submit everything super quickly. Luckily, we check our buckets, so we're like, oh wow, he updated everything. We can send him through. Let's go ahead and get the strategy going. Right. And it's super quick. I mean, we can get everything done within a couple of days of coming up with the strategy, making sure he has all the documentation, and sending him up for approval. And where he needs to go after that, I mean, it's perfect. At the end of the day, it can be done fairly quickly. I think the longest process, of course, is going to be with the VA, or them receiving their packet if they're not local. They still have to receive the packet and review it. But getting everything done on our end, like strategy wise, and getting it approved and sending them where they need to go after that, if it's doctor bookings or if it's even just packet creation, it can get done fairly quickly.
Right. And then with that too, the average, how we usually do the claims is just depending on which route we take. So whether we send them to the mental health doctor, whether we send them to the general medicine doctor, or they don't have to see a doctor at all. Usually when they don't have to see a doctor, the process is a lot faster. When they have to see the doctor, the mental health or the general medicine, that process does take a bit longer, just because we do have to wait for that nexus letter to come back from the doctor. But again, working as fast as our veterans.
Yeah.
So booking that appointment as soon as possible, advocating for yourself, all of that is super important to, one, speeding up the process, and then again, just getting that compensation that they deserve.
Yeah, no. Yeah, a lot of the times when they're like, oh, I have to go see the doctor, and then they have to book the appointment, and then they're like, so where is it? And I'm like, oh, it's coming. You know, you already went to your appointment, because we do prepare them, you know.
Right.
So they have those 2 appointments that they have to attend to, and then they wait for their Nexus link and their Nexus letter. So they're like, yay, I finally got it. And we're like, yeah, you know, when you call them, you're like, guess what? It's in. You're in the packet creation process, and they're so excited, like, yay, I'm gonna get my packet soon. And then they find their packet, or they see their packet, and they're like, finally. And they get happy, of course, and then they send it off to the VA. But it is fairly quick at that process itself. Like, the doctors are very good at the end of the day with getting them done as quick as possible, because there is a lot of clients, but they do get it done. And when the veteran receives it, they're happy as can be, because they're like, yes, now we can finally send it off to the VA.
We're closer to that, to the steps.
I know, closer to that compensation. I'm telling you, very close now. One step closer. Like, once they get their packet, and then they sign it and they send it off to the VA, usually the average can be, according to the VA right now on the website, it says up to 6 months. So it did extend a little bit, but it really just depends. And that's how Warrior Allegiance helps us. We make our packets super to the point, and we make sure that everything is needed in the correct forms and everything that they need at that time when they receive their packet. So there is like less mistakes, and the VA can just look through it and give them what they deserve at the end of the day, even though it can be a 6 month. But when we make the job easier for the VA in our packets and how we word things, how we know the CFR codes, how we know what we're doing, because we follow those VA regulations, it makes their job super easy at the end of the day. So they typically can get their claims back within shorter period of time.
Just depending on the CMP exams, all those things, and making sure that they do attend those. And I think one of the things about being an intake counselor as well is the extensive training that we have received. We're able to recognize the claims that we can send them for just by seeing their rating breakdown, or if they're not rated at all, by looking at their MOS, by looking at where they served, all of those things. We've become pretty much experts on which claims that they can possibly go for in their favor. So I think that's one thing about being an intake counselor as well, being able to recognize exactly what will help the veteran win essentially. So. Yeah,
no, definitely. And then like the average, I can speak for myself. When I submitted my claim with Warrior Allegiance, I got a rating back within 90 days.
Oh, wow.
And the VA told me 6 months, right? They gave me an answer within 90 days for 3 out of the 4 claims that I did send. So it was fairly quick. And I got the compensation, and then I moved forward, and now I'm on my second round to start a new claim. But it can be really quick at the end of the day. It just really depends. I think it also depends on where the veteran's at, like, so where their VA is located, if it's near them. So like for those CMP exams, luckily for us, you know, we are in a military town, so we have VA everywhere, and we have those contractors that work for the VA that we can go see for our CMPs. But some places where veterans live, they don't have that, so it takes a little bit more time, which is understandable. At the end of the day, that's why we try to help the veterans understand, even though you are waiting, it's still being worked on. Like, I know there's a little quiet period, you haven't heard from the VA, but don't be afraid to call. Pick up the phone and be like, hey, what's going on with my claim? Because the worst that they can say is, oh, we're still working on it. We're still waiting on a decision, which no decision at all yet, as of no answers, is not a bad thing until you get that decision letter. And even when you get the decision letter, and if you got denied, that's not a bad thing either. It gives you a lot of insight as to why they even denied you at the end of the day.
And going off of those denials, like, a lot of veterans always can think that denials are a bad thing, but they're not. Denials aren't a bad thing, because on that decision letter, it tells us exactly what the VA needs in order to get that condition rated. So I know a lot of veterans can be discouraged due to these denials, but I always try to emphasize that they aren't always bad for you. It just lets us know exactly what the VA needs from us and from the veteran as well.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, definitely. Because when I went for the claim that I did with Warrior Allegiance, I was denied the first time, and then I sent the packet from Warrior Allegiance, and I got approved. So it
exactly.
definitely does help.
Yeah, and then just again with those doctors as well, knowing when to send them to our doctors, whether it'll help their case, because we only send them to our doctors if it's more favorable for them.
Yeah.
So just things like that, being able to have the resources is something that Warrior Allegiance is so great for, because we have resources that most people, maybe other companies don't, or also being intake counselors as well. And the intake counselors that we have here were all very empathetic and we always reassure our veterans. So none of our veterans go unheard. We make sure that we have any challenges that they're facing, we help them through that. Whether it's for their mental health, we actually even have Mr. Barry here who does help with that as well. So just things like that, we're able to navigate them to the right resources to help them in any way we can. And I just think that's the best part about being an intake counselor, just being able to help them both with their compensation and their basically like their livelihood. So I think that's the best thing about being an intake counselor.
Yeah, definitely. The best thing for me is like it's more personalized support than anything. They're not just a number to us.
Right.
They're a person at the end of the day, and we're trying to get them stuff that they deserve. We're trying to get them the compensation they deserve. So it's very personalized, and it's very near and dear to my heart because I'm also a veteran. So being able to help other veterans that are around me that have witnessed or seen things that I have done, and they're like, wow, I'm not rated, that's what makes the best of this being an intake counselor at the end of the day. Personalized support, talking to them, getting to follow up with them. They're not just passed around from person to person. They're stuck with me through the entire process. Entire time. Even if they come back for a round two, it's back to me again. So that's real important because, there's other places that don't do that. They just, you're with this person or you're with this person, or they don't even talk to a person at the end of the day. So being that personalized support for them, and like you said, on a personal level, on a professional level, you get to know about their life and then also help them get the compensation that they deserve.
Yeah, exactly. So far the time that I've been here at Warrior Allegiance, I've been able to help multiple veterans actually reach to their 100%, and receiving that text message from them or just that call from them that they were able to reach that 100% was completely, I almost cried actually, because one veteran was just so grateful that he was able to get that money for his family. And it's just such a fulfilling job that you're able to do this for a person and change their life basically. It's so fulfilling to be able to have them call you and just tell you how grateful they are for you for taking them through the process and making it as easy as possible for them. And then also them referring other veterans. I've gotten plenty of referrals because of helping other veterans attain that 100% disability as well.
Yeah. No, yeah, most definitely. It's always funny. Like, I'll go up to the front desk and like, oh, this veteran's here for you. And I'm like, okay. And then I walk in, they're like, yeah, I'm only here to see you.
Yeah,
at the end of the
exactly.
day. No, they referred me to you, so I'm going to come to you. So it's always so fulfilling. Yeah, I've actually gotten quite a few veterans to 100%. I just found one out today as well that they got 100%, so I was super happy about that. It's always great when we see them pop up on TikTok and they're ringing the bell when they're local. Right. It's always like the best feeling. You're like, that was my veteran. And they're just so excited. Like, they, sometimes they're just like, yeah, I got 100%, and they're really calm. I think I'm more excited than them at the end of the day. I'm like, what do you mean you got 100%? And they're just like, I know. They just don't know how to feel sometimes. They're like so overwhelmed because they've been fighting for so long, and then they're like, you made it so easy. I should have came here a long time ago. And I'm like, exactly. You should have came to Warrior Allegiance a long time ago. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that we actually got you to that 100%. And you're good to go now. And we're a lifetime commitment, so if anything were to happen, we will definitely fight for them against the VA at no additional cost.
Even after that 100%.
Even after that 100%. That's always the best. And then the families, like, they'll bring in their families too, and it'll be so cute. And the wife's over there standing next to them all happy, and I'm like, yes. Because at the end of the day, they are here with them, and they're doing this with them as well. So the process, they make it a lot easier on them. At the end of the day, I feel that the families being that support for them and being there through every milestone and every step, because they've seen it a lot. So they definitely can feel the pain that the veteran has gone through as well.
Of course, yeah. To all the veterans watching today, remember that you're not in this alone. We here at Warrior Allegiance, we are able to help you throughout the entire process. So whenever you're ready to start, we'll be ready to start as well. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.